Welcome to Booked, where two guys tell you about the books they're reading. I'm Livius Nedden.
Now I'm Rob Olson. The book that we're going to be talking about this episode is Vultures by Chuck Wendig, the final book in the Miriam Black series. And that's, I'm guessing, final. Like, he said there's not going to be more, but who knows, like 6 years from now, he might be like, there's more story to be told or something, like if it gets picked up by TV or something.
This episode marks, kind of a special and maybe sad moment too, Rob.
Yeah.
We will no longer be like the podcast arm of the Wendig Empire.
We really have been throwing serious coverage on the Miriam Black and then other books as well.
Yeah, a couple others, but Miriam Black, holy crap, man. 6 books. 6 books.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How many times have I said we should never do a sequel?
It's like every day.
Yeah, almost every day. This is one of the reasons. But we are doing this one, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, it's going to be good, and there's going to be spoiler talk. But let's get some of the formalities out of the way. Here's a bio for Chuck Wendig, for anybody who hasn't listened to the last 431 episodes of our podcast. Chuck Wendig is the New York Times best-selling author, and that's the thing. When we first started talking to him, he wasn't a New York Times best-selling author yet, but now he is, and that's awesome. So best-selling author of Star Wars Aftermath, as well as the Miriam Black thrillers, the Atlanta Burns books, and the Heartland YA series alongside... Oh, see, my phone just thinks Siri wants...
Hi there, Rob.
Calm down, Siri. A little sidetrack there, sorry about that. Alongside other works across comics, games, film, and more. A finalist for the John W. Campbell Award for the Best New Writer, and the co-writer of the Emmy-nominated digital narrative Collapsis. He is also known for his popular blog TerribleMinds.com and his books about writing. He lives in Pennsylvania with his family. Sorry for the ADD nature of that reading. I didn't think Siri was going to interfere.
Hey, what could you have even said to get her to... Never mind, I don't know.
Series.
Oh, yeah, I guess. We'll see how many times I can get you to say that this episode. Wendig, not too busy a guy at all, huh? Kind of slacking off when you read that bio. Just, but you're right. We knew Chuck way back when Miriam Black won, which was maybe his second or third book. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and he was much more known for like working in gaming and I think writing scripts and stuff back then.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, video games and stuff.
Here is the synopsis, which, again, if you haven't read the other 5 books, none of this is going to make any sense. So skip forward half an hour so you can hear non Miriam Black stuff. Still reeling from the events of the Raptor and the Wren, Miriam must confront 2 terrifying discoveries. The Trespasser now has the power to inhabit the living as well as the dead, and Miriam is pregnant. Miriam knows her baby is fated to die, but Miriam is the fate breaker, and if the rules have changed for her nemesis, her own powers are changing as well. Miriam will do whatever it takes to break her curse and save her child. But as Miriam once again finds herself on the hunt for a serial killer and in need of an elusive psychic, she can feel the threads of her past coming together, and the pattern they're forming is deadly. To end the Trespasser's influence in her world, Miriam must face her demon a final time, and this time, one of them must die. Vultures is a heart-pounding conclusion to the series.
All right, as you're reading the synopsis, it occurred to me that anybody who hasn't read the other books, like you said before, might be a little bit lost because the synopsis definitely assumes that you've been reading the series all along. So I think there's just a couple of things maybe that we could touch on. So just Miriam Black in general, when she touches you, she sees how you die. So she knows the date. She knows like she can kind of see like a little mini film of what's going to go down. And that's been her curse throughout this now 6 books that we've gone through. And throughout that entire time, she's been interacting with what she calls the Trespasser, which is basically like, however you want to describe it. In the later parts of the books, it's described kind of as like a possessing demon almost, who is trying to get Miriam to do things seemingly tied in, interwoven with fate, but maybe a little more self-serving than originally she might have thought.
And now she's knocked up.
Yeah, she's What did they say in that? Did you watch the movie Juno?
No.
Oh.
Does
Anyway,
it surprise you at all?
Juno had all that like Diablo Cody, like slick slang kind of stuff, and she said, "I am for shiz up the spout." So, there you go.
She is for shiz up the spout.
There you go.
Yeah, we pick up shortly after the events of the last book, The Raptor and the Wren, in true Chuck Wendig / Miriam Black fashion, I guess. We see a thing that happens, and then we like kind of see the thing that leads up to it.
Right.
So we kick off with Miriam on the road in the back of an ambulance under police custody after all the involvement out in the desert where people ended up dead.
Yeah, so after the last book ended with the big reveal that she figured out she was pregnant and that the baby was going to die, but she ended up in police custody, and now she's like pretty much immediately dealing with that situation. And the custody thing very quickly falls apart as the trespasser shows up, occupying the bodies of the police person that has her in custody, and then also at one point the ambulance driver, because they're taking her to the hospital for injuries. I think she got shot like in the armpit or something weird like that. Mm-hmm. She had an injury to her armpit. And the trespasser, who traditionally could only kind of manifest to Miriam in the people in her life who had died, possesses these two different people at different points, causing them to kill themselves, and she goes free. And now she's on the run, trying to figure out how she's going to protect herself and try and change the fate of her baby, like it says in the synopsis.
She pretty quickly meets back up with Gabby, who was her friend / kind of
lover.
Yeah, in the previous book, I was going to say kind of girlfriend, but I'm not sure if that's quite the right label for her. And the two are approached pretty quickly by an FBI agent who has been following Miriam Black's workings for a while. I guess we don't know exactly how long, but for quite some time. Trick is, he's got a little group that he's put together, and they are all people with special abilities, not unlike Miriam herself.
Yeah, so this is kind of the launching point for the new story. Like, the very beginning of the book was just, how do we reconcile like everything that happened at the end of the book into the beginning of a 3-part act kind of story. And so and now he wants to recruit her to help find a serial killer, mentioned the synopsis, and in exchange for that, because she's a fugitive, and B, like suspected of killing people and all types of crimes and stuff like that. The basic idea is the clean slate of your past in exchange for you help me catch this serial killer. And so if we know anything about Miriam over the course of these books, she's not the type of person to ever handle authority well. So it's kind of iffy whether she's going to be able to work under the circumstances that they want her to help find this serial killer.
Yeah, and then what follows is a touching story of motherhood while looking for a serial killer.
Kind of.
Yeah, there's not a ton we could talk about in plot for this book. But yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time with Miriam dealing with her feelings about this, not just the pregnancy itself, the possibility of being a mother, but, we've said it before, because of her ability, she feels that her baby is going to die. So you've kind of got this back and forth. She doesn't really want to be pregnant. She doesn't really want a baby. But then, she's worried about having a baby and what type of parent she'll be. And, the baby's likely going to die, because Miriam's visions, to explain for anybody who isn't familiar with the story, her visions always come true, with the exception of if she can kill the person. So if it's a murder. So, for example, if Miriam saw Rob's death at the hands of, we'll say, another podcaster. If that podcaster was killed, we're just undefined podcaster. If that podcaster was killed prior to that, Rob would live. But if Rob dies of alcohol poisoning, There is nobody to be stopped from killing him. So then that becomes unchangeable.
Right.
That becomes fate. So she knows that nobody kills this baby. So she doesn't know. She doesn't think that the baby will survive.
Right. So, yeah, plot-wise, the only other thing I would say is that there's a little bit of a carrot and a stick for Miriam with this whole FBI guy, Scooby Gang, serial killer thing, in as much as he says he knows a medium that could try to help her figure out how to save her baby, and so he's not going to give her that information until he catches this serial killer, and so that's why she's kind of begrudgingly considering helping him out. And then they all lived happily ever after. No, I don't know.
No, not exactly, but yeah, something like that. It's a very standard Miriam Black fare, and that's not to say that I know it sounds like I'm saying that like it's like it's a poor review, but it follows in line with the rest of them. There is an antagonist that is not the trespasser. There's the trespasser who's a separate antagonist, and it's Miriam's journey to try and defeat another antagonist. Only that we know this is the end. So, we're kind of led to believe, and you should be led to believe, that there's going to be some type of showdown with the trespasser and that something will be resolved or not. But end of the series pending, there's definitely a little bit more of stakes, higher stakes going into the end of this book.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I appreciated about this story was how it incorporated things from earlier stories, and so like throughout the series, that's been something that's like things kind of surface from the past at regular intervals, because there's Lewis from the first book who he wasn't present through the entire arc of these books, but he popped back up on a regular basis and was a pretty significant character throughout. The Caldecott family, which was the bad guys in Mockingbird, and then kind of leading into Cormorant. That's the third book, Cormorant.
Yeah, I believe so. Yep.
Yeah. So this book follows the tradition of it's an ongoing story and things from the past resurface and in interesting ways and stuff like that. So I enjoyed how characters from previous books and I'd say even consequences of earlier actions kind of presented themselves in this, and even as in the defeat of one of the big antagonists in the Raptor and the Wren, what she does to stop that person manifests as an interesting change to like an evolution of Miriam's powers in this book, which I thought was very good.
Without spoiling anything in this book, when we first met Miriam, she could like experience somebody's death, kind of see it through their eyes, and she knows the date and the time. To flat out in the last book, she could control like a whole group of birds at one time. So I mean, we've already seen a progression of her abilities, and more so in this one as well. And it's mentioned, right in the synopsis too, that the trespasser also, and we talked about it, went from just manifesting as pretty much whoever it wanted, but it always tried to affect Miriam with its presence on who it was, to now being able to control those people and maybe even farther throughout the course of this book.
Yep. And then the other thing is the evolution of Miriam herself, I think, takes an interesting new turn in this book. She's always been the super negative, hates everybody, angry type of loner person throughout the series, who in her interactions with the people that aren't her enemies, like the people that she's picked up along the way, like Lewis and Gabby, has to confront the fact that like there are people in the world that are good, or like at least good for her, and especially considering she's mourning the loss of loved ones from the past, and dealing with the fact that she's going to be a mother. There's a lot more of an emotional arc, I feel, in this one, where even down to like the way that she reacts to, like, in conversation, she's trying to be better about not being kind of a psycho. But then also surprising herself by her feelings being different than they traditionally would too. So there's definitely a pretty significant emotional evolution of the character of Miriam Black in this book.
The thing about Miriam as a character is that she's an enjoyable character to read. But fuck, man, like Lewis, and you know, I'm gonna say this, no matter how badly he dodged a bullet by not dodging a bullet.
Wow, good one.
Because who the fuck seriously wants to be in a relationship with Miriam Black?
Yeah, she's beyond difficult.
She's fucking really unbalanced.
Yeah.
You know, so like I said, as much as we like her as our spunky, foul-mouthed protagonist, like, this is not a likable person. This isn't someone you want to fucking be friends with, let alone like be involved with in a relationship. Or at least that's my take on it.
Definitely a high maintenance person, and that's the thing. Like, I can't think of an exact correlation in my life, but she's the type of person that, like, her personality is hard to deal with. But then you see what she's been through, and you're like, I at least get why. But at the same time, it's like you still have the option to kind of nope out of it, like be like, this is not for me. So I feel like the people who do choose to, because Gabby stubbornly sticks with Miriam in this book when she could have walked away over and over again. That's someone who just sees beyond the trouble. I don't know. Yeah, that was like you're saying, not many people would stick around a person like that, but Gabby refuses to go away.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. That's kind of a little bit short for a review. We are going to do some spoiler talk on this, though. I'm sure, right?
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely going to be some. I would say that the majority of our discussion here's the thing about this particular spoiler talk. We're going to be talking about we're going to be spoiling this book, but we're probably going to dig into. We got 6 books worth of stuff to talk about, so I think that we might have some series feelings as well as spoiler feelings.
If you are a Patreon subscriber, there will be spoiler talk available for this episode of Booked. If you're not, $1 a month is all it takes. You get spoiler talk and our eternal gratitude. Well, at least for as long as you're a patron. I guess eternal is probably pretty strong. For those of you that dropped out, we were totally grateful when you were patrons. Now we still think you're okay. We're just nowhere near as grateful. But you can find that at patreon.com/booked. And we're going to go do that right now.
Okay, we are back from a very good spoiler talk. And I think one of the benefits of spoiler talk, this is half me selling it to you so you give us money on Patreon, and half just like reality. It really helps us kind of calcify our opinions on the book, because there's things that we talked about there that once we kind of either just thinking or talking about them or hearing what someone else said about them kind of helps you understand, like, have a better understanding of the book. And so real good conversation about this book and a little bit about the series overall. So definitely go check that out if you're currently contributing to Patreon. If not, patreon.com/booked, $1 a month at least. I mean, you can give us $90 a month if you want to. That seems a little excessive, but we're not going to say no to that.
Nobody should go over $75 a month, Rob. Yeah. I'll say it.
Okay.
I'll just go ahead and say it.
So. Don't you dare try and go to $76 a month.
Correct. Hey, the other thing that happens in spoiler talk, I've been thinking about this the last couple times we've done it, is that there's so many times that you can't address in your wrap up what it is you really liked. Like, you have to be really generic.
Yep.
Or what you didn't like. Rob and I talked about a part that ultimately was okay or whatever, but that, I was really poised to hate. And it's not something I could ever talk about here. So, but let's just say that really threw me off on this book. And I said, hey, I liked Miriam Black, the story, but some stuff happened. I'm giving it 2 stars. It would seem really, short or whatever, right? Because we spent a lot of time talking about the book, and then I don't talk about the thing that I hated. Mm-hmm. Not the case here, but I think a lot of times that's my justification for things happens over there, because I can't do it here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, you have to substantiate your claim, but you can't do that when you're trying to not spoil the book.
Right. So one thing I want to talk about, which I really like when this happens in a book, and that's the learning something that's totally not part of the book. So there's a character in here who just really likes for things to be called by their proper name. Mm-hmm. Did you know the difference between champagne and things that look a lot like champagne before reading this book?
You mean like sparkling wines and stuff?
Well, Prosecco, and there's some other ones. Like I didn't know, but yeah, because I always thought like Prosecco tastes just like champagne. I don't get the difference. Mm-hmm. Sparkling wine taste. I did not know that. Also, tea. That was pretty surprising too.
Yeah.
That the only real tea is essentially chamomile tea.
And everything else is a whatever different type of
herbal teas.
Yeah. That I was not aware of, but it was interesting.
I like that kind of stuff. And again, it had absolutely nothing to do with the book, but I was like, oh, well, here's a nice little tidbit I picked up that isn't about seeing someone's death or fucking spiritual demons possessing bodies. I was like, this is some nice real world stuff thrown into the middle.
Yeah, because it had no impact on any part of the book whatsoever. It was characterization more than anything. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was interesting. I like that.
I became a bigger fan of that character. That's all I'm saying.
Do you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, let's do it. I'll go first. 6 goddamn books, man, we reviewed here on Miriam Black. So I'm only gonna do a review for this one, but I'm gonna kind of encompass my general feelings on all of them. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I'm glad it's over. I think that Chuck ended it at the right time. I said over in spoiler talk, maybe one book too many. But thank God for not going on and on and on, where this is 12 or 13 books where you just have to keep introducing more of what happened in this book, which was kind of like, and the last book to a certain extent, but like upping the game, more powers, more characters with abilities, because that's the only way to maintain this kind of series, or at least that's what typically maintains this kind of series until long after it should have been put to bed. Not just series like this, the Burke series by Andrew Vex went on a little too long, and that was just like introducing new people from the criminal element that had a specialty that they could help with, to the point where it got the cast was just too big to care about, to be honest, in that series. So I'm glad that he put it down when he did. Overall, Miriam Black is a very enjoyable, if annoying at times, character. And the story wraps itself up really, really well, in my opinion. I enjoyed this one. I don't know. The first one I think is the best, and then much like series like this, the other ones are good or equally good. I will put this probably at an equally good as the previous books, and overall my feelings on it would be like 4.25 stars.
All right. Yeah, so I'm going to do my best to make this a Vultures wrap up and not a Miriam Black series of 6 books wrap up. I think that Livius really nails it with like once you get this far into a series, and I'm sure Chuck Wendig was very aware of this, the gimmick begins to overtake the plot or the story or the storytelling, and there's really no way to reconcile. Like a good storyteller will know how to rein that in, but still like stakes have to be raised at some point. But I think Chuck all along has been just telling the story of a person who's trying to get through like a series of extraordinary difficulties. And so it's always been very character driven about Miriam in general. And so, yeah, the series needed to kind of chill out at some point. And I think this was the right. Did you hear that?
So heard it.
So I said series again, and it's yeah. That was my HomePod from the other room. That was my speaker talking to me, not my phone this time. I totally lost my thread. That's okay. I guess what I'm trying to say is, it was never as much a series of psychic death and craziness and serial killers as it was like the trials and tribulations of Miriam Black, and so the trajectory of the craziness was pacing to overcome the storytelling. But that being said, with all of the craziness that happens with like possessing birds and all that kind of stuff in Raptor and the Wren, that really ramps up big time. But in this book, I feel like he dialed it back a lot, and it was the right choice because there was so much more personal stakes on a individual human basis. Those were the higher stakes than the crazy, there's a woman who can't be killed kind of enemy that we have to fight, and now I'm going to possess birds to try and help save the day thing. Like, he dialed that back, I would say, a lot in this book, and it was the right thing to do. Overall, I feel like, and this is something we talked about in Spoiler Talk, so if you feel like this is kind of a logical leap, it's because we talked about it over there instead of here. There are a lot of twists in this book and in this story that were so smartly written that if he had done them in a different way or had been a little bit lazier about it, I would have been very disappointed in poor storytelling. But he wrote things very intelligently. It's obvious that the story really mattered to him. Did a great job of writing the story. He made Miriam so much more Miriam, and he kind of brought her to a very satisfying conclusion without spoiling anything. And so her story wraps up nicely to my mind. I feel like he handled the fact that supernatural shit was getting out of control and really focused more on a people kind of story this time. And it was great. I think he did a great job of wrapping up the series, and I'm going to give this 4.5 stars because I have to give it a higher rating than Livius.
That's fair. You gave it a much longer wrap up, man. Holy shit, that might be the longest wrap up you've given a book. Yeah.
Well, I feel like it was like, I've never written 6 books in a series, but you and I are both very, acutely aware of what the downfall of a series is,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that he handled it well, and it's obvious that he planned it. Yep. So he needed credit for that.
Hey, one thing that I didn't mention during the synopsis was this, and again, I feel like Chuck probably has complete creative control over this process, but what's this shit with the fate breaker? There's a very different term used for that in the book, which would make no sense in the synopsis.
Yeah. What was the term in the book?
River breaker.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm just kind of, which I get it, like in a synopsis, like, I don't know, because I don't know how I feel about this. Who's going to pick this up? And it says still reeling from the events of the Raptor and the Wren. So you're like, oh, well, shit, this isn't the first book.
Mm-hmm.
So you figure the people who are reading the synopsis maybe are familiar with, the River Breaker terminology, but
probably not.
I don't. It was just really weird.
Well, the word fate shows up earlier in that sentence, so it thematically makes sense for the actual, like, what it's saying. And if
no, I know it was just.
I hear you. I'm with you on it. But overall, good job, Chuck. Like, do you remember how we decided to read the first book?
I don't. No.
It was the runner-up for Novel of the Year for the This Is Horror Award, and you were just like, you were just like, we should read other books on this list than the one that won, because I think it was Stephen Graham Jones won. And so we're like, oh, runner-up, let's check that out. And that's how we read the first book, and then immediately the second book, and then interviewed Chuck, and then when the third book came out. So it was very, very fast. But that's how, had you not said that, maybe we never would have read these.
That's true. It's very true. All right. Well, Chuck Wendig, it's been fun.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest with you, man. We may have to skip a couple Wendig books.
I gotta say, though, like, I feel that there is talking about, like, adaptations and stuff like this. That was it was in development as a TV series, and it got kind of shelved. And I feel timing has a lot to do with it, because, like, in the kind of Netflix world that the last, like, year or two has been, I feel like Wendig's story, like the Miriam Black story, would have had a much better home in the kind of climate of TV series that's going on now than it did maybe 3 or 4 years ago when it was being developed.
For sure, and totally makeable into a TV series, because even if you didn't buy into the supernatural element of it as much, you could, if you cast the right Miriam Black, you'd have something that's fun to watch.
Oh yeah,
from a character standpoint, and not necessarily because of all the witchy psychic happenings or whatever. Like, you wouldn't even have to market it that way. It would be a smarter Well, until production company got a hold of it, right? I was gonna say it'd be a smarter, little lower key, especially those first couple of books.
Yep.
But as we talked about, as the series draws to an end, it does become bigger and bigger with morphing abilities and stuff turning into that kind of thing. So,
hey, before I forget, I wanted to mention one thing I discovered from the acknowledgments in the Vultures book we just finished reviewing. I knew that there was a Miriam Black novella in a book called Three Slices that was it was Chuck Wendig had a Miriam Black story in there, and then there was Kevin Hearn and Leela Bowen. And there's another book, same authors, 3 novellas called Death and Honey, that's got a Miriam Black story that I did not know about. So guess what's going on my to-be read list?
There you go. Because you read Three Slices, I believe, right?
I did. Yeah. Oh, I think it was released January 28th of this year, so that might be why.
Oh, yeah, that's very, very recently.
Okay.
Isn't one of those... Isn't the woman author there that also wrote the Star Wars books with him? Why do I feel like we talked about
Kevin Hearn.
Or maybe it was him, yeah.
Wrote the Luke Skywalker book that we reviewed.
That's what it was.
Do you remember that?
Oh God, yeah.
Heir of the jet. I don't know, heir something.
Yeah. Airball
of the
Yeah. I remember there was something where it was like 2 of the people in there were writing Star Wars, like Disney approved Star Wars books.
Oh, and so just for anybody who might be interested, the story Death and Honey features Ren unable to escape her life as a hunter of serial killers. So it's not about Miriam at all.
Interesting. I mean, Ren, so we were done with this goddamn thing. Ren was an interestingly underused character, I think.
Yep,
so
I
she
agree.
gets, in the Raptor and the Ren, she's, the one that basically Miriam's getting blamed for the shit that she's doing. And then,
Yep.
like that's a character that should have been fleshed out better. And hopefully that novella does that.
I'm definitely checking that out.
Can I give a mini review on a book I read? After reading this.
You mean you read yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I basically almost read 2 books since reading this. I was on vacation, and vacation consisted of having my own little like terrace outside of the hotel room, which was nice to kind of sit down on. I did what I said I was going to do a few episodes ago. And I don't know if I said it on the actual podcast, but we had Les Edgerton on. He had said The Stranger was maybe the best book he'd ever read by Albert Camus. And I kind of hemmed and hawed and said, I feel like maybe I read that, but I didn't read it. And then you had chimed in and during our conversation said it was a great book. I read The Stranger.
Yeah. I think that I think he said it was the best in the craft of writing.
Yes. Man, I hate to be the guy because I know this book is like I don't get it. Like I got the book, I read the book. The book was fine. It was a good book. I don't understand the hype around it. I guess it is really what it comes down to. Here's my review of The Stranger. If Holden Caulfield was in his like late 20s, he would be that character in The Stranger. Yeah, like that's what I felt it was, like the adult Holden Caulfield book. So I enjoyed it. I'm not unhappy that I read it, but I think that I went into it with an expectation of greatness, and not just because of Les or what you said, but I mean I know it's one of those books that's always mentioned as like a classic. Mm-hmm. And although I enjoyed it, I don't quite get its classic status.
Let's see if we can get maybe that's what we'll hit next time we hit up Les Edgerton. We'll have him talk a little bit about why he thinks it's the special deal that it is.
Oh, believe me, if we ever get him on again, I have questions. Yeah. So,
I mean, you didn't like with the end of the book, the way it ended, you didn't get like really worked up about shit.
I mean, I sympathized with the character, although, how do I say this? He's an unsympathetic character. Like by design, right? Because he just doesn't care about anything. So like I got what he was going through and I could get in his head. But I don't. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not saying that at all. I didn't give it a rating. If I had to give it a rating, it would probably be like 3.5 stars. That's just off the top of my head without giving it any thought at all. Okay. But I mean, there are other classics. Like, so we just read The Three Musketeers, right? And Three Musketeers lives up to the goddamn hype. Like, that's, you know what I mean? And this one just didn't for me. And I'm not saying it wasn't good. It just, I don't know. I don't know what my expectation was. It was definitely not adult Holden Caulfield, though.
So what was the other book that you said you almost finished reading? Was it like a palate cleanser kind of thing?
Yeah, well, all right. So I thought I might have a little more time to read. I wound up reading the majority of it on the plane. I'm 2/3 of the way through. I should probably get the actual name. It's Bubba and the Cosmic Bloodsuckers. Does this sound at all familiar to you, Rob?
No, but it sounds like a palate cleanser.
Yeah, so it is by Joe Lansdale, and it is the prequel to Bubba Hotep.
Ah.
Which is why I read it. Bubba Hotep, a movie that I loved, and a short story, I guess, novella that I really enjoyed that we reviewed here on what did we do that for? It was I feel like it was a holiday.
It was a holiday episode. Was it our last Halloween one, or?
It might have been. Whatever
Maybe.
It was. I really enjoyed that too. 2/3 of the way in, and I'm probably going to finish it because it's not super long, but man, there is not the magic of Bubba Hotep in this one.
Wow.
At all.
All right, so you're just talking about what you read on the plane, which means you were flying, which means you went somewhere. Tell us a little bit about that.
So astute listeners of the podcast will be not at all surprised that I was in New Orleans for a few days. Let's say they're super relaxing New Orleans vacation. We wound up, I stepped out of my comfort zone. So for the last however many trips we've been staying at one particular hotel, this time I caught a good deal, and I was like, we're going to try this other hotel. This is the thing that you should learn. If you find a hotel you like, never chance going to another hotel. Stick with what you know. That's my pointer on this one. This hotel was a little on the shabby side. Old converted, because so I may or may not know this. There are a lot of protected buildings in the French Quarter. You can't tear them down.
Historical buildings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So you wind up with this used to be a mansion or a slave quarters or whatever it was that's been converted into a hotel. I don't know what the backstory of this place is, but I think the last updates were done probably around the time that it was referred to as a mansion, because it was in significant disrepair.
Oh no! So
although it had a wonderful courtyard it was too cold for a pool. Not that I'm a pool guy, but there was a pool and a wonderful courtyard, and most of the rooms had a shared porch balcony with chairs out there and stuff. That was the best amenity at that hotel, and that's where I read The Stranger, which is really nice. The rest of it was a dump, but overall, good time in New Orleans. Mostly good weather. It rained every single morning, but not that much, not at all, almost during the day. So, it was a good time. It was trip 1 to New Orleans of this year.
I was very happy to receive the customary photo of you drinking from a neon green grenade, in the morning.
A tropical owl hand grenade, correct?
Yeah. Gotta say, the camera on your phone is really good. The picture you sent me, it looks like you're standing in front of a modern castle or something, or I don't know. It's got spires and stuff.
Yeah, that was likely the St. Louis Cathedral.
Okay.
I don't remember. I'd already had 2 by the time I sent you that picture, so it's a little harder to remember. I'll tell you, there's still a significant amount of construction. I may have mentioned this a year ago or 2 years ago when they started the construction. Part of the problem was because of the construction, places were all opening later. And I was very, very concerned that I would not even. So I went to all 4 Tropical Isle bars, and all of them were closed. And not with a sign that says they were up. I looked on their Facebook, says they're open now. They open at 10 o'clock every day or whatever, and it's 11:30, and none of them are opened. So I was really worried about my ability to get drunk on New Orleans hand grenades. But I overcame adversity and was able to do so.
Hey, good for you. Was there, all right, so I saw, and I think the timing lines up. You were down there when the Super Bowl was going on, right?
Correct, yes.
Was there was some sort of un-Super Bowl thing or something?
So Yeah, we weren't necessarily around for that, but I started thinking that was going to happen because on the day of the Super Bowl, like in the morning, there's just tons of people wearing their football jerseys for a team that is not going to participate in the Super Bowl. Well, I'm talking to people and overhearing things and stuff. Yeah, there's basically a Super Bowl protest that occurred. For anybody who's not familiar with football, meaning I'm going to explain this to Rob.
Thank you.
There was a very controversial call in the final playoff game that the New Orleans Saints would have advanced to the Super Bowl. The call,
there it is.
Nobody is arguing that it was a good call after reviewing it. It's like one of those, and it quite literally cost them the game. So New Orleans decided that they weren't. I was sitting at a restaurant where there was a sign in the window that said that in solidarity with the guys, so much to explain. Who Dat Nation, WHO space DAT, which is apparently something Saints players say. I'm guessing it started with one player and became a thing.
Yeah.
That they would not be showing the Super Bowl. Like there was a sign posted in their window.
Wow. All right.
The day after the Super Bowl, one of the big newspapers down there actually posted.
Oh, I saw this. Yeah,
the blank page, and it just said
what Super Bowl,
big game, what game, or whatever. Yeah, and a completely blank page. So yeah, New Orleans not happy at all with the NFL right now.
Well, so which team was it? The Patriots that would have lost that game, or was it the other team that was playing
I believe it was the Rams.
Okay, so they would have lost. They would have been up against the Patriots.
Correct. Yes.
I almost said they would have lost, but I don't fucking care.
Yeah. So the Rams won by 3 points. I have not watched because my level of caring for sports, right? But apparently, from what I've heard, like nobody that watches that, like that's it. The game would have. Yeah. So, they would have gone to the Super Bowl.
That's messed up. So yeah, I guess that's the thing now. Like bad calls, and we just have to live with it.
Yeah.
What can you do?
This is funny. So I pulled up to make sure I was right on the Rams. And this is fucking hilarious. This isn't hilarious. This is super sad, okay? A police officer passed away apparently on the 3rd of February.
Okay.
Which would have been the day of the Super Bowl.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. So it says Henry A. Jaume, I don't know, Jaume, age 65, passed away on Sunday, February 3rd, 2019 at 1 p.m., determined not to watch Super Bowl 53. He was a native of New Orleans, blah, blah, blah. It's in his fucking eulogy. So, yeah, these people are pretty serious about this shit.
Wow. Well, you know what? If you knew you were going out, like, why not go out with having a little fun?
Yeah. I will say that I was actually happy they didn't win because this trip was booked before the games. You know what I mean? So like a month ago.
Would have been, yeah.
Oh my God, I can only imagine what it would have been like. Although it wasn't played in New Orleans. I mean, the turnout of fans, it just would have been one of those ridiculous days where you decide to like stay at the hotel bar, instead of venture out to the streets if they were playing.
No kidding. Wow. Well, you've had more adventure than I have since the last episode, for sure. I've just been sitting around chilling.
I did go look for places Les Edgerton might have slept when he was homeless in New Orleans.
Yeah, I have to imagine that most of the clubs and stuff, or whatever, don't exist anymore from when he wrote, or when he was living it.
Yeah. Probably, and I don't know how many of those were like really in the French Quarter where I was staying anyway. I mean, New Orleans is a sizable city, and I spend my time in like 16 square blocks. So
true that. Well, I'm glad it sounds like you had a little relaxing time.
I am all geared up to go to France later this year.
Man, you're just jet setting.
Fucking A right.
So hey,
I will tell you, I paid for the nice seats on the way back on the plane. Oh, money well spent, man.
Patreon money well spent.
Yeah, dude, no. I wish. You know what I'm talking about? They have the seats up at the front that are bigger and like more padded. Oh, man, that is so nice. It's going to be hard not to do that every time now.
The only time I ever did that was the one time I flew Spirit because Spirit, like basically like you pay nothing and then they charge you for every single goddamn thing you could think of. Like if you want like better like whatever, like you have to pay for everything. Like you want a seatbelt, it's $10 more. Like that's the thing with Spirit. But like that, it's not even first class, but it's just like the front of the plane where there's 2 seats instead of 3 was like $80 extra on on my flight home from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, $80, bring it on. And it was like the most luxurious shit ever. But that's the closest I've ever actually flew first class on a United flight one time as well. But that was like a lifetime ago.
You've never flown internationally, have you?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever the first class seats on international? What they look like now?
No, I have not.
So you should Google this. They're like posted diagonally, and you get a seat where you could essentially almost lay down. You might be able to lay all the way down. Like you've definitely got a footrest and a reclining seat with like a TV that's like right in front of your face. It looks pretty crazy, but yeah, I mean,
I'm looking now. Yeah, I just searched first class international, and I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Holy shit,
not bad.
Man. Yeah. Well, I mean, the cost though. You don't understand. It's like
it's
5 times
dollars,
the cost of like your actual flight, which is already like $800.
So I flew international one time, and it was I can't remember what plane it was, but the seating, I was in regular, poor people seating. And so it was 2 seats, an aisle, 3 seats, another aisle, and then 2 more seats.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means, I don't know if you did mentally picture this, there's exactly 1 fucking seat in any given row that's not a window or an aisle seat.
Yep.
That's the fucking seat I was in.
Yeah.
For 12 hours.
Yeah. The trick to that is, when we flew back from Europe, we were coming back on a double-decker plane.
Nice.
Well, and this is the thing. There was so any of those seats that were in, coach or economy or whatever it's called, there was no cost to like change your seats. So I quickly decided just to see what the top level of the plane was.
Yeah.
So the one we flew in was 3, 3, and 3.
Okay.
So there's middle seats in each row, wherever you're at in each row. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you went upstairs, all the window seats were just 2 seats, which when you're traveling with one other person is really nice because you have your own like little row. Yeah. And again, for people who just weren't quick enough on the trigger, I was able to very easily change my seats to that from what originally was given to us, which was, whatever, like the middle seat and an aisle seat, somewhere. So
yeah, good job.
So if you're ever on a double decker, definitely check the second level of the plane for better seating.
I feel like we're going to be flying private jets soon enough.
Right? And then there'll still be a middle seat, though. Like,
oh, shit.
If we have a private jet, it's still going to be like an economy private jet. So there's still going to be a middle seat. So.
It's going to be like they put wings on a megabus.
Oh, my God, dude. They're so... Yeah. Flying is not comfortable if you're trying to be economical.
I saw a meme on Reddit recently that was it was just like a screenshot of someone's tweet, because that's how memes are these days, and it said just something along the lines of like Midwest people be like, why fly? It's only a 16-hour drive. And I feel like that's totally me.
That is very true. I don't know, man. Like, I wonder, like, if you paid, so, the seats on the plane I was on were 3 and 3, 1 middle aisle, right? Mm-hmm. So if you took out 1 seat, everybody would have to pay 50% more. Is that right? Yeah. 50% more, but they would all be like that front seat. I'm thinking most people would be okay with that. If
they did that through the whole plane and just doubled all the fares, I would totally do it.
Well, it wouldn't be double. That's what I'm saying. It'd only be 50% more.
I know, but I would still...
So you're still at doubling the fares?
If that was the premium that would make them make that decision.
Yeah.
The biggest fucking insult is, like, that you're getting to the gate well in advance of boarding the plane, right? And they have all those seats at the gate, and the seats are fucking massive at the gate. And it's just like, it's like they're taunting you. They're like, this is the life you could live if we just made you carry your seat in from the gate into the plane. But no, we're going to put you in a fucking claustrophobic nightmare. Yeah.
It's funny. I looked at the breakdown ticket. I don't have it handy, but like the breakdown for the ticket like what you wind up paying in taxes and fuel surcharges, or like your ticket's only $25. That's like $200+ in like other shit.
Yeah.
So at any rate, I don't know how we got to fucking critiquing the airline industry.
The airline industry, yeah. There you
go. Next week we're going to be doing something weird, I guess. So
something new. Who thought after almost 8 years of doing this we could come up with a new idea?
That's correct. What did I call this? This is the swinging for the old married couple. So a couple episodes ago he said it's about doing something new.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. And so yeah, that's well, we were gonna go back to Wheel of Meat because we didn't have a book that we've got books lined up, but just nothing that lines up release wise with next week. And Livius was like, Wheel of Meat ? And I was like, okay.
Rob burned so many fucking calories thinking about a way not to do the Wheel of Meat.
Yeah.
Rob's down 8 pounds.
I thought of it.
8 pounds just based on not trying to do the Wheel of Meat.
Anxiety. I was in just a fucking cold bathtub shivering and trying to figure out what to do. I still had clothes on. You don't have to worry about picturing anything weird. I thought of something, and Livius was okay with it, and we're not going to beat around the bush anymore. We're going to read a movie novelization.
Yes, we are. I don't have any of this pulled up. I know it's called The Nice Guys. I know it's one of Rob's favorite movies. I have not seen the movie, so I am not only going to read this book, but watch the movie. Not in that order. I'm going to read the book, then I'm going to watch the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I figure that, you've got it the other way around.
So and I do perspectives.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So this is, I feel like, regardless of how the actual review goes, because I'm a little hesitant. There's such rich discussion around the idea of movie novelizations that the episode is going to be interesting no matter what. So that's all I'm going to say about that, because I have lots of thoughts about the idea of novelizations. But yeah, so this is a novelization of I think it's a 2016 or 17 movie, Nice Guys, written and directed by Shane Black. People may know Shane Black from movies like the Lethal Weapon movies and Predator and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and a ton of other stuff.
And expect there to be some conversation about a movie called Beneath the Silver Lake too next week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hey, one thing we didn't cover, and we should because of the timeliness of it, this AJ Finn thing. And even if we go a little long, I feel like from now on, when we review a book by somebody who's a bigger author, we should do the thing that news sources are doing now, where we try to get a hold of their college yearbook, see what kind of dirt we can find on it, because we didn't know any of this shit about this guy, and I'm guessing it was all out there originally.
Yeah, and we just didn't dig into it at all. So we reviewed The Woman in the Window, which is written by AJ Finn, and that was a few months back, probably.
Yeah, sometime last year.
It was a book that was sent to us by the publisher, and it just seemed like, oh, this looks interesting, let's check it out. And that's how we read it. But now you have the story up, Livius. There's some news coming out that AJ Finn is a pen name for someone who maybe has been up to some shit.
I'm going to give this to you the way that I best understand it without doing 45 minutes on this, right? So this is news because there's a second book coming out. I think that's the only reason this hit the news cycle. So Dan Mallory is the actual name of AJ Finn, the pen name of the author of Woman in the Window. God, I don't know why that's so difficult to say. Here's what I gather. The short version is he put a couple books out on auction back in 2016 under the pen name and did not reveal his actual name until bidding reached $750,000. The reason for that is that he previously worked in the publishing industry, and apparently he had lied repeatedly about illnesses like brain cancer. So the second that people found out it was him, because apparently people in the industry knew this just from him being in the publishing industry, they were like, oh, yeah, I don't want anything to do with that. Well, lo and behold, the HarperCollins did buy the books and now is going to put out the second book, which, fuck, man, they spent over $750,000. I would hope that they put out, whatever they got out of this guy. I just wonder if this is going to make news really outside of publishing. This guy didn't dupe Oprah, right? So I don't think it's going to be like front page news. When his new book hits, the guy who lied about cancer and stuff is still publishing books or whatever. I feel like this might be something that's localized more to the industry and won't hit the people who actually will pick this up in an airport bookstore for, list price.
Yeah, I kind of have the same feeling, like no one's really going to care. The only way that it would really hit mainstream news is if a novel, or my mind's still on novelizations, like a film adaptation like became a big success, and then they, the author of the book became, started to get some notoriety, a la Josh Malerman Bird Box type of thing. What I will say is, it's just, I think that the story would pretty much die a natural death soon afterward anyway, because it's a little murky, because he is he's bipolar, and basically was blaming the bipolar on his impulses to lie about having things like brain cancer and stuff like that. So I don't think that there's like a clear good guy, bad guy kind of way you could paint him in this. It's just kind of muddy and kind of a little like sad.
Yeah.
Like in a way that the news cycle can't take advantage of.
Well, he also told acquaintances that his mother was sick or dead or dying. This goes all the way back to like his college admissions. It's one of the reasons I said, other than stuff in the news today about, tracking down someone's like high school yearbook to try to find out dirt on him. Again, like, do you want to reward somebody who does that? I don't know. Like, I mean, no, you shouldn't, right? But I liked Woman in the Window.
Yeah,
like, I'm totally down for reading another book by this guy.
If he wants to be, like weird about what he says about his life, but I still enjoy the story, doesn't mean the story wasn't good, like to a degree. Like we got the weird rapists and pedophiles of the past, like H.P. Lovecraft, like being a huge racist and stuff. There's a line where you can't, you know what I'm saying? But this is pretty tame shit when it comes to scandal in the book industry, I'd say.
I am going to read, this is something I don't say very often, the Vox article on him, because it's really got some more insight, and it's pretty lengthy. So if you want some insight into this, one of the authors that Mallory represents at William Morrow appears to have inserted Mallory into one of his books as a villain. The character is charming, flattering, and tells everyone he's dying of a disease he doesn't have. Later, he poses as his brother Blake, as in rhymes with Jake. She also appears to have hired a private detective to investigate Mallory. So it looks like there might be a lot more to this. So yeah, go to Vox.com and check out this article called "The Profile of Publishing's Biggest Scam Artist." So
wow.
Yeah. So at any rate, maybe we'll have him on. Maybe we'll also talk to him. Maybe he'll talk to us after his next book comes out next year.
There we go. I'll do it. I'll talk to anybody. I won't talk to anybody, but I'll talk to that dude.
All right. So we've got what's next, The Nice Guys, the book and the movie. We know what's coming after that, but we'll keep that under our hats for now. There's an interview coming up later this month. We've got lots of cool stuff planned. Yeah,
the next few months promise some good stuff. Some from people that we really like, some from people that are new to us. So very exciting.
Yep. Until next time, I'm Livius Nedden.
And I'm Rob Olson. Keep reading.